So we are living through a plague. But unlike plagues of the past, we have both a vaccine to slow the transmission and stave off its worst effects, and we have scientific mitigation actions like masking and social distancing to limit the amount of people who can spread or contract the virus. And yet, we have 1/3 of the country, including a fair amount of our leaders, completely ignoring these facts and actively spreading the virus in the name of freedom. Do people not know what happened in past plagues? I mean, during the Black Plague, they came to your house in a mask, by the way. And if you had any of the symptoms of the plague, they would just paint an X on your door, locking the sick person and their entire family inside, and if you died, you died. Once in a while, they would come by with a wheelbarrow to take away the bodies. But they knew the goal was to isolate the sick or exposed from the rest of the community. A couple hundred years later, if you're in a smallpox outbreak on a ship, they would leave you on an island or toss your entire ass overboard. If the ship got into a harbor with a smallpox outbreak on board, the entire ship would be quarantined for weeks. Sometimes they'd just set the ship on fire with everyone and everything on it. That's how we used to deal with viruses. America would never even have won its independence without Washington insisting that all of his soldiers get vaccinated for smallpox so we didn't lose them all to the disease. And this was not the nice little injection you get today. This was an active pustule in an open wound. There was no coddling of the people who didn't want to do the thing. There was life and there was death, and you had to do what you had to do for the greater good. Look at poor Typhoid Mary. She was the carrier of typhoid without any active symptoms, and yet she was forcibly made to live in isolation for the rest of her life for the greater good. No one is asking that of you. No one is locking you in your house or making you live on an island or throwing you off a ship. And yet how is it the 12th century peasants get it more than 21st century citizens? There weren't a bunch of people picketing in the 1300s to let all the plague people out of their homes or the smallpox people off the boat. Do you know why we don't have smallpox and the plague anymore? Vaccines. Modern medicine. We've all been vaccinated for measles and mumps and rubella. I had chickenpox as a child, but my son got a vaccine because science is constantly evolving to make our lives better. But somehow you guys think you're smarter than science. You're selling out worm pills for animals. You're putting your 3 fingers in the air and whistling so you and your brethren can act like you're oppressed by the very people trying to keep you alive. Dude, you are plague people coming out of your homes. And honestly, at this point,